India has responded to US President Donald Trump's tariff threat. Here's what India has said. India has been targeted by the United States and the European Union for importing oil from Russia after the commencement of the Ukraine conflict. In fact, India began importing from Russia because traditional supplies were diverted to Europe after the outbreak of the conflict. The United States at that time actively encouraged such imports by India for strengthening global energy market stability. India's imports are meant to ensure predictable and affordable energy costs to the Indian consumer. They are a necessity compelled by global market situation. However, it is revealing that the very nations criticizing India are themselves indulging in trade with Russia. Unlike our case, such trade is not even a vital national compulsion. The European Union in 2024 had a bilateral trade of 67.5 billion euros in goods with Russia. In addition, it had trade in services estimated at over $17 billion in 2023. This is significantly more than India's total trade with Russia that year or subsequently. European imports of LNG or liquefied natural gas in 2024 in fact reached a record of 16.5 million tons, surpassing the last record of over 15 million tons in 2022. Europe and Russia trade includes not just energy but also fertilizers, mining products, chemicals, iron and steel and machinery and transport equipment. Where the United States is concerned, it continues to import from Russia uranium hexafluoride for its nuclear industry, palladium for its EV industry, fertilizers as well as chemicals. In this background, the targeting of India is unjustified and unreasonable. Like any major economy, India will take all necessary measures to safeguard its national interests and economic scrutiny. And now we have my colleague Kabir Naqvi joining us live from the newsroom. Kabir, India putting up a strong front and laying the facts out there and exposing Western hypocrisy when it comes to questioning India for buying oil from Russia.
No, you're absolutely right. We've said it time and again. External Affairs, Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, he said it in various forums across the globe that, India is that nation that can go and meet Putin at Kremlin and can then go hug Volodymyr Zelensky at one of those, national war memorials in central Kyiv. And that goes a long way. Prime Minister is that, global leader. India is that nation with that global heft. And why shouldn't we come out with such a strong worded statement? If it suits Donald Trump, he can call both these nations' economies dead. He can say that India and Russia can take the dead economies down for all I care. We do very little business with, we sell very little to India, and we absolutely do no business with Russia, and that's how it should be. And I think this little statement, this strong-worded statement that has come out, point number 5, Krishna, that you just read out as well, I think that's the most hard-hitting. It says, where the United States is concerned, it continues to import from Russia uranium hexafluoride for its nuclear industry, palladium for its EV industry, fertilizers as well as chemicals. So hypocrisy and the dichotomy of the Republican administration quite clearly out for everybody else to see. And what's more is that Donald Trump coming out with this new threat of substantially increasing these tariffs when the Russian ambassador to India, Mr. Alipov, has already said that Russia and India are looking towards increasing their financial synergy. Something that happened at the previous BRICS summit where de-dollarization was spoken of, and Donald Trump did not like that as well. He said, all these nations can go to hell for all I care, and they can kiss my bleep. So those are kind of the braggadocio statements that come from Donald Trump. But what's more is that we've seen him walk back on many of these statements time and again. When that tariff tiff happened with China and United States was upping the ante, so was China. China basically showed the United States that, hey, look, we can suffer more than you can. And now India has come out with that really strong-worded statement as well.
Stay with us. So we have now Aditya Raj Kaul joining us on the broadcast with the latest. Aditya, talk to us. This is a strongly worded response from India, hitting out at not just the US and US President Donald Trump, but the whole of Europe as well. Aditya. Right, we're just trying to connect with Aditya. Before that, let me quickly, Kabir, at this stage, it is the response from India has been swift. India hasn't wasted any time, after that, threat escalation by Donald Trump. And even now, we really don't know where this is going to land, because Trump has again been vague in terms of the fact that there's more tariff. We had mentioned an unspecified amount of tariff initially, because there's going to be the 25% plus a penalty for buying oil from Russia. He never mentioned exactly what is the percentage on that is going to be.
You're absolutely right. And, the last time he put this out, Piyush Goyal, the Commerce Minister, he spoke right in the Parliament, telling the entire world that, India is that shining star across the globe. International financial institutions have come out speaking in support of India, backing India's GDP, backing India's economic growth. If not one of the most fastest growing and robust economies on the planet, it's soon going to be number 3 on that list as well. So our economics is quite sound. It's quite robust. It's growing and going in the right way. And when it comes to bilateral trade with the United States, financial year 2024, Krishna, on the upwards of $85 billion worth of international trade. Donald Trump is not liking the fact that we're able to sell more off of their shelves than anything that they sell here back at home in India. And Prime Minister Modi has drawn that red line with his economic cabinet as well, that dairy products and agriculture, MSMEs, our farmers, we're going to continue to safeguard that. And when it comes to energy, we're looking at predictable energy. We're looking at our nation's, priority that is going to be an overriding principle when it comes to anything like this. So we've, number one, called out their hypocrisy, because they buy fluoride and for their nuclear needs. They buy, palladium for their electronic vehicles and whatnot, chemicals and fertilizers. When it suits them, it's absolutely fine. And Donald Trump going out, sticking his neck out and saying that we're not just buying, we're also selling this oil in large quantities in the open markets, which indirectly is helping Russia's onslaught on Ukraine. Well, somebody could give Donald Trump the Gaza and, the West Asian war theater example as well. So we've called their hypocrisy out. This is purely a dichotomical statement that's coming from the Republican administration, and that strong-worded letter and message going from India as soon as Donald Trump woke up in the United States and took to Truth Social seems to be his favorite thing. Braggadocio statements, but not much heft behind that. On the other hand, India, take a look at this. Not much to speak of, but what great global heft for the entire world to see, Krishna.
Yeah, absolutely. And India laying it out over there in terms of, point by point, in 6 points, so to speak. So let's recap those points quickly. Kabir, stay with us. After Trump's escalated threat to levy more tariffs on India, India has put out this extremely strong response and said that India has been targeted by the US and the EU or the European Union, and that India began importing oil from Russia only because traditional supplies were diverted to Europe. India putting out a 6-point rebuttal. First is about the fact that, the US, in fact, at one point in time, actively encouraged India buying oil from Russia for strengthening global energy market stability. And the second point being India's imports are meant to ensure predictable and affordable energy costs to the Indian consumer. And that such trade is a vital national compulsion, whereas unlike in the case of other countries where there is no such vital national compulsion, European Union in 2024 and 2023 has hit all-time highs in terms of bilateral trade with Russia. That's another point that India has highlighted. And that after that is that Europe-Russia trade includes not just energy, but also fertilizers and others. And as far as the US is concerned, US imports uranium hexafluoride for its nuclear industry from Russia. And finally, India signed off by saying the fact that targeting of India in this regard is unjustified and unreasonable. We have Kabir Naqvi still with us on the broadcast. Kabir, all said and done, all eyes will be on how Indian markets perceive this entire back and forth between India and the US come tomorrow morning, because whatever Trump says is that he is now having a direct impact on India's stock markets.
No, you're absolutely right. That's one aspect to take a look at. But what was the actual and the real impact, Krishna? I mean, I think you're the right person for this. What was the actual impact that took place the very next morning? August 1st deadline. How did markets open up here? How about we tell the viewers that first?
Right. The markets took a serious blow, Kabir. I mean, that is, that is a given. And let's not just go with what happened on the 1st of August. Let's talk about what has been happening all this while. Every single time there is uncertainty regarding tariffs, and that uncertainty emerges from one source, and we all know that, and that one source is Mr. Donald Trump. It has become a running feature. It is something that Indian stock markets have been vulnerable to ever since Trump raised the specter of tariffs from the first vague threats onwards, and then to the recalibration of the entire tariff regime for the US with all countries across the world. And now with that finality that he arrived at, because there's in between there was some kind of a hope that that trade deal could have been struck, that trade deal would be struck, and that could eventually protect India. But then that trade deal has not been struck. India has managed to strike the free trade agreement or FTA with the UK. But it hasn't managed to do that with the US, and that uncertainty continued, and the uncertainty peaked again on the 1st of August, and we saw the stock markets tanking the very next day. A deep cut, lakhs of crores of market capitalization getting wiped out, lots of people losing money on that day. But all we can tell viewers at this stage is that, wait and watch is the only thing you can do at this stage. Do not rush, do not do anything knee-jerk as far as stock markets are concerned. I only ask you that question, Kabir, because that's something I'm sure that's running in the minds of everybody who owns mutual funds or stocks, or remotely connected to the India stock markets. I'm sure all of our viewers are one way or the other, and they're all at this point in time worried. But all we can tell our viewers at this stage is that hold on, hang on. This is not the end. This is not the beginning or the end. This happens to be a continuous sequence of
Krishna,
unfortunate
the free
events.
trade agreement was signed, but we're soon looking at that first interim trade deal with the United States as well.
Yeah.
Piyush Goyal quite confident on that front. So fingers need to be crossed, and we should hope that good sense prevails. And let's look at the markets tomorrow.
Right, and that interim agreement could again be a stopgap. But Kabir, let's face it, all said and done, they say, what the experts are saying. They're saying that Trump is even doing all of this. This is a lot of bluster because he's trying to bring India to the negotiating table and end the whole thing with a proper free trade agreement, I think. But then Trump wants that agreement in favor of America. And and not necessarily a win for India, but then it's India's job to ensure the fact that that free trade agreement with India, with the US, India's largest trading partner, is a win-win trade agreement. One that can grow from strength to strength, and that is probably the reason why you're seeing the delay in the in the process and the delay, indefinite delay, so to speak, at this stage to arrive at that final trade deal. But bear in mind, that's where this is all heading towards. Sooner that comes, the better. I'm afraid we've completely run out of time here. With that, it's a wrap here from my side. Thank you so much.